and I'd see Khadija. And she'd say, when I'd see Khadija, how much money Khadija gave to this religion. That every time Rasulullah needed any sort of wealth for the spread of this religion, she would help. But she said, I saw Khadija sacrifice more than anything in the sha'b of Abu Talib. You know Abu Talib, when he gave his land, because there was economic sanctions on the Prophet and his companions. The Quraysh said, nobody can deal in any trade with the Prophet anymore. If Muhammad wants to live, let him produce his own products. Were it not for the wealth of Khadija and those 3 years of sanctions, Islam would have been destroyed. That's why when Fadak was given to Fatima, the reason Fadak was given to the Lady of Light was because of her mother's sacrifice for Islam early on. Allah wanted Fadak to be given to Fatima so that it was in honor of what her mother had given to Islam early on. You find that Janaba Fidda, what does she say? She says, I used to see Khadija eating leaves. Eating what? Leaves. In order that the others can eat meat, she'd stay and only eat leaves. And she'd become so frail that I would not believe a lady like Khadija, who was the princess of Quraysh, Amirat Quraysh, would become a lady who by the end of her life has absolutely no money whatsoever, even for her own kafan. Fidda would grow up in this environment. She'd see Khadija sacrificing. Then she'd see a young Fatima be born in the house of Rasulullah. Fatima al-Zahra was born when? According to many opinions, Fatima al-Zahra was born in the 5th year of the prophethood of the Holy Prophet. So when the Prophet was 45, Fatima was born to him, Fidda was in the house. Fidda says the young Fatima, the amount of service she gave her father was an example to me as to the service I'd want to give Fatima herself. In which way? She said, I would see Fatima al-Zahra walking in the street. Her father would be praying. The Arabs would come and pour the feces of their animals on her father when he's in sujood. You've read the verse in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى عَبْدًا إِذَا صَلَّى. Have you seen the one who offends our servant when he's in his prayer? Abu Jahl would see Rasulullah in sujood. He'd get the feces of an animal and pour it all over his head. And do you know who would be the first to come and clean her father's head? Fatima. Fatima would come to her father's head. She would come and she'd try and wipe all of the feces away from him. Fidda would say, not only would I see this, I would then see that Abu Lahab, the uncle of the Prophet, his wife Jamil, the sister of Abu Sufyan, she would come and she would put wood on the ground and she'd burn the wood and sometimes carry some wood and throw it on Rasulullah as he's leaving his house. Have you not read the verse? تَبَّتْ يَدَا أَبِي لَهَبٍ وَتَبْ مَا أَغْنَى عَنْهُ مَالُهُ وَمَا كَسَبْ سَيَصْلَى نَارًا ذَاتَ لَهَبٍ وَامْرَأَتَهُ حَمَّالَةَ الْحَطَبِ. Amra'atahu, his wife, she would carry the wood, burn the wood, and hurt Rasulullah. Janaba Fidda, what would she say? She'd say, I'd see the young Fatima, and I'm a servant in the house, but I would take this lady as my leader in life. She said, I'd see the young Fatima look after her father in this way. I'd see her wipe the feces of her father's face. I'd see her remove the burning wood with her own hands. And she'd say, I'd see her father come home, and if Fatima enters the room, he would stand up for her. And people would say, Ya Rasulullah, what are you doing standing up? This is a female, because there was still that male chauvinism in Arabian society, that this is a female. We used to bury these girls alive a few years ago, and now you stand up. He would say, Fatima is the mother of her father. Fatima is the mother of her father. And that Fatima al-Zahra, the way she treats me, she's like a motherly figure towards me. In other words, Janaba Fidda, what would she be seeing? She would be seeing a house which was a house of sacrifice. Because imagine, when we say Janaba Fidda is the servant of Fatima and the servant of Zainab, when we say this, there must have been something she saw early which inspired her. As in, there were many servants who left houses, many who worked for individuals but left. But with Janaba Fidda, no, when she saw the sacrifices of Khadija and Fatima, she wanted to be alongside them in every move. And that's why when Fatima al-Zahra went to live in Medina, Janaba Fidda was there to serve her at the beginning of her marriage. She used to say that, do you know what type of sacrifice and honeymoon Fatima al-Zahra had at the beginning of her marriage? The honeymoon of Fatima was removing 63 wounds from the body of Ali ibn Abi Talib after the Battle of Uhud. Fidda says that she would accompany Fatima al-Zahra. Fatima al-Zahra comes to the battle of Uhud. She would see Amir al-Mu'mineen having fought at the battle. Ali ibn Abi Talib, on the day of Uhud, there was no one like him in his defense of Rasulullah, I tell you. And the Quran is the one which says this, not me. The Quran, when it tells the companions, you leave the Prophet alone in the battle of Uhud, as in you turn back on your heels. If Muhammad is dead, then the religion of Muhammad is alive. Ali ibn Abi Talib stayed with Rasulullah on that mountain of Uhud. When Fatima came to the land of Uhud, to the area of Uhud, 63 wounds on the body of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And she herself would patch them up. And Janaba Fidda, what would she say? She'd say, I'd see her looking after her husband. Whereas other ladies were complaining about the booty of war, Fatima al-Zahra was more concerned about the religion of Islam. And that's why you find that in the house, Fatima al-Zahra would set an example for Janaba Fidda, which unfortunately is missing in Muslim communities today. In Kuwait, do ladies who are Muslim have servants at home or no? In Dubai, do ladies who are Muslim have servants or no? In Dubai. In Tanzania, in Africa, do Muslim ladies have servants? In Kenya, for example, do they have servants? Yes. In, for example, other Muslim countries, do they have servants at home or no? Yes, there are many Muslim countries who have servants working within the house. What today we would call maids rather than servants. Have you seen the way these maids are treated or no? Do you hear about the way these maids are treated or no? As in, for those of you who have relatives in these countries, do you see the head of the house sharing the work with the maid, or do you see the majority of the work by the maid? Do you see the children being brought up by the mother or the maid? The maid. Now, these maids, are they treated well in terms of economically? Are they well looked after? As in, say, for example, okay, I'm the mother of the house, this is my maid. Economically, she's doing, like, let's say she's doing all the work at home in my house. Do I then say to her, you know, because of the great work you've done this year, here's our credit card, go out and spend as you like on behalf of the family. If you're lucky, you'll get a round ticket back to her country, isn't it? If you're lucky, you'll give her a round ticket, go back to your family for 2 weeks, and then come back and act as a servant in our family. Isn't that true? Fadda says, look at the difference between everyone and Fatima. She says the Prophet would come to Fatima and he would say to her, Fatima, one day you work and Fidda rests. The next day Fidda works and you rest. Look at the difference. Muslim women today called Fatima, when they have maids in their house, there's no such thing as equal rest, is there? You work 7 days of a week for me, and in some cases I'll treat you worse than I'll treat a dog. You are a servant who carries my bags where I walk. You hold my children when they cry. I don't want any fuss, and you clean every area of the house. When I flick my fingers, you bring the food. Are they treating them like Fatima and Fidda? And you know what the worst thing is? This is from our school. Forget other schools in Islam. We are the school that prides ourselves on Fatima and Fidda, isn't it? Go to our communities which have servants in their house and look at the complete opposite of Fatima and Fidda. There is no Fatima and Fidda. Rather, it's become a case of master and human, a master and servant. What do you find here? The point that was being raised there by Fatima is that Fidda would say, Fatima, when I was her servant in the house, one day I would work and she would rest. One day I would rest and she would work. Because the Prophet would say to Fatima, Fatima, know that Fidda is a human being. It's not an employer-employee relation. It's a relation between two human beings. Our fourth Imam in Risalat al-Huquq, he says the right of your servant is you clothe them with that which you wear, and you feed them with that which you eat, and you allow them to drink that which you drink. Do not put a chore on them which they cannot handle. And if you are not happy with them, let them go. Don't be rude and offensive towards them. With Fatima and Fidda, you'd find this relationship. That you think Fidda remained loyal with Sayyidah Zainab at Karbala because Fatima was rude to her? No, it's because Fatima was so humble with her that she see this is the daughter of Rasulullah. This is the one of the 4 women of paradise, if not the mistress of all of them. Yet look at her. One day she'd say to me, Fadda, you rest today. You worked yesterday. You rest. Let me do all the work. What is needed to be done? Wheat, I'll grind the wheat. Barley, I'll make the bread. Water, I'll serve the drink. Let me do it. That type of impeccable ethics is missing from our communities today. Then she'd say not only this, she'd say, I'd see Fatima's husband, Amir al-Mu'mineen, living a life which none can live. So what do you mean? Suwayd ibn Ghafla narrates, he says that I came to visit Ali ibn Abi Talib. When I came to visit him, Ali ibn Abi Talib said to me, do you want some food? He said, I didn't answer. So I saw Ali ibn Abi Talib with some bread and with some milk. The milk did not look like the purest of milk. It looked like milk which may have gone a bit past its sell-by date. And the bread I'm seeing, Ali ibn Abi Talib tried to break the bread and finding it hard to break it. You know, after Khaybar, one of the companions asked Amir al-Mu'mineen, said, you just lifted the gate of Khaybar, but you can't break the bread? He said, with Khaybar, I did it for Allah, whereas the bread, I'm doing it for myself. With the bread, what happened was, he said, I saw Ali ibn Abi Talib trying to break the bread, he can't. Then all of a sudden, he managed to break it. Ali ibn Abi Talib looked at me, he said, so do you want some of my milk or some of my bread? So Wade said, you know what, I wasn't going to drink any of that milk. And certainly that bread would have probably broken my teeth if I had eaten it. So I said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I'm fasting. He said to him, oh Suwayd, know one thing, that a person when he sees food which is beautiful, but he maintains his fast, Allah will reward him with food in Jannah. So credit to you that you saw this dry bread and this milk and you thought it's beautiful. MashaAllah, credit to you for fasting. Imam knows that he's not fasting. But Imam's telling him credit to you. Later Suwayd says, I went to Fidda. I said to her, Fidda, that's Ali ibn Abi Talib. How could you make bread which is hard for him? Why don't you make that bread which is soft for him in order that he's able to eat it? She said, Ali ibn Abi Talib has made a vow that he will not eat bread like that while there are poor human beings in the world. Imagine that it wasn't just a servant relationship with a master. It was a relationship where every day was a lesson. Every day. One day Fatima is giving lessons about humility. One day Ali is giving lessons. And that's why arguably the greatest lesson Fidda learnt was the lesson which the Quran revealed the verse about. When Imam Hassan and Imam al-Hussein were young, and Fidda is the servant of the house, and Fidda holds the two of them, but she notices they are ill. She tells Fatima Zahra, she tells Amir al-Mu'mineen that these two children are ill. Of course, Imam and Fatima are wondering, what shall we do? The fact that they are ill, Rasulullah tells them, you know what you should do? You should make a nidhr, that if they recover, make a vow, that if they recover from their illness, then you will fast for 3 days consecutively. Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein recovered from their illness, so Ahl al-Bayt got together on the first day. I tell you, this is the family, honestly the family of sacrifice, and the family of humility, and the family of principles, that you find on that first day. Fatima Zahra, what you do? She got the barley, she made 5 loaves of bread, as in you'd think that when you are making a meal at the end of fasting, when we make a meal, wallah, that meal can last the whole community. When Al Muhammad make a meal, 5 loaves of bread is an unbelievable meal that day. That's too much. So they took these 5 loaves of bread, Fatima Zahra gathered them all, Hassan, Hussein, come with me. Fidda had said, I loved them so much, and I knew their fasting brings them closer to Allah, that I fasted that first day as well. I wanted to join, because fasting isn't just for the holy month of Ramadan. Sometimes the human being, if they want to discipline themselves, should fast even outside the holy month of Ramadan. That the Holy Prophet used to say, whoever fasts the middle of a month, it's as if he's fasted the whole month. You find that Fidda, what did she do? Fidda fasted as well. They were coming to eat the bread. All of a sudden there's a knock on the door. When that knock happened on the door, the Imam went to answer. Who is it? Someone who's poor. This person who's a miskeen, this person's poor, has nothing. He says, oh, family of the Prophet, I have nothing for me. I would be delighted if you were able to help me. The reply that came from Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatima Zahra, they said, rather it would be our honor. It would be our honor to see another human being eating, even if it means we remain hungry. That first day went past. Now you would think, okay, there may be more food at home. There's no more food. So let's fast the whole